So this is for the auditor candidates. What would you do to obtain hospital census numbers and staffing numbers since the push for lockdowns? The city called for this info and the hospitals refused to provide the info. How would you enforce this if the request came from the county? I don't know what they're talking about, but that's the summary of the question.
Okay.
So.
Sometimes it's better to let the candidates decide amongst themselves who goes first.
So, actually, this is a question that kind of hits home for me because I'm the one who made the request to the hospitals to give me those numbers. They were calling to shut down the city, and I said, all right, well, you say that our hospitals are packed, prove it. I'll come in there, I'll wear your hazmat stuff, I'll wear a moon suit, whatever you want me to do, show me. And they told me to go pound sand. They said, we're not going to tell you that information, we don't have to. And I said, well, if you're not going to tell me that information, I'm not going to do anything you want me to because you haven't proven that you're being honest. So as a county auditor, that's more of a executive position rather than a legislative position. Definitely what I would do is if the county commission requested that information, I would speak to the hospital, ask them for that information. If they refuse to give me that information, then I would look into the state law, see if they are required to give me that information. I don't know if they are or not. I don't know that they are required to give us that information. But if they are resistant to give us that information, that's definitely something that I would relay back to the county commissioners and tell them that they are not willing to basically prove that they're being honest. And anybody who is being honest usually doesn't have a problem proving it. So that's definitely something that I would be, that's kind of how I would handle that. And so there you go.
So for working for the numbers, so part of that is working with public health, working with your Department of Health within the state and getting those numbers, and also working with the CEOs of CHI and Sanford. So those are where those numbers would come. Yes, there is a point where they could come back and say, yeah, whatever, get out of my face. However, as you said, we just report it back to the commission and say that's what we could do. But again, it's working with those CEOs of the hospitals and building those relationships. So, and working with your public health.
Although not related to the auditor's office, how would you have voted on the recent hate crime ordinance?
I would have voted in favor of. However, because I do have a son with a disability, and so it very much hits home for me. And so that is a piece that I will stand strong on, that I would have voted yes for it.
Probably as all you guys know, I voted no on it, very passionately no, mainly because of the ramifications of that. On the surface, it looks like a good thing. All right, we don't want anybody to hate each other. That makes sense, right? Okay, but when something like that comes across the desk, you have to look at, okay, what are the long-term effects of such a rule? And historically speaking, nationally speaking, and definitely globally speaking, what these well-intentioned laws end up being used for is being used to shut down people talking about things they don't like. Because at the end of the day, somebody has to determine what hate means. And then what ends up being used always is, all right, you're speaking out against, gay marriage, you're speaking out against abortion, that's hate speech, now we're gonna put you in prison. Hasn't happened here yet, thank God, but it has happened globally. And so you cannot legislate yourself into making people not be jerks. You have to promote a Christian loving society that is kind to each other and has kind debate. If they disagree, that's fine. Have debate. And don't be rude, don't be hateful or anything like that, but that's something you can't legislate. That's something that has to be brought up as a child and as a community. So that's something that I was definitely very strongly against.
Another one for the auditor candidates. What can we do to ensure election integrity?
Definitely two of the main things that would be on my list is, number one, it's not required by law. However, we should have a camera right on the drop box. It's not required by law, but again, why would we limit ourselves to just fulfilling the minimal requirements of the law? That's ridiculous, especially when it comes to election integrity. So that's definitely number one on my list. We need to have a camera on there. Also, another thing that I would entertain looking into and talking with the state into doing is doing audits on our election equipment almost every single election cycle, if at all possible. And if that's not possible, I would be pushing for hand counts. Every election, doesn't matter who wins, doesn't matter who loses. I know that's a logistical issue, but something as important as elections is something you cannot compromise on. Like I said before, you have to be 110% sure in our elections, because if you're not, you're always questioning what actually should be happening.
Again, your vote is your voice, right? So of course there is integrity in all of our voting, and so for me it's about making sure that we keep our precinct districts and voting areas, because I know like Cass County has gone to a Cass-wide, a large, you just go anywhere in the county. I don't like that. I think that you should be voting in your precinct, and also just the integrity of having a private vote. I think that, I'm sorry to say, a camera on it seems to me a little invasive. I think you should have to have the vote, but also in training our people to make sure that they're giving the right ballot, that their vote, and your vote is your voice. So yeah.
How will you ensure our tax dollars are well spent?
See, I run a nonprofit, and so for me, it's about making sure that that what you're spending is what's within your budget, right? So it's oversight, it's talking to department heads, it's having that conversation of where is your money going and why are you spending the money that you are. It is not on me to set the budget. As a county, your county commissioners all set your budget. I'm just there to make sure that they're spending within that budget that's set forth with the commission. So it is having those conversations. It's also having those hard conversations of saying you're almost to your budget, what are you going to do? So those are those things. And so it is, we need to keep that fiscal piece. I'm also a fiscal conservative, and making sure that we make, that we're spending it as we need to, but also making sure that it's well within the means of their budget.
Like Kirsten said, the county auditor would have a good relationship with the department heads when they're going to make their budgets for the following year. Have them say, all right, this is, and they are saying already, I believe, this is why I need this money, this is what the projects are for, this is what I need. So making sure that they're remaining within the budgets that was approved by the county commission, and having that dialogue with the department heads and making sure that they're doing what they were saying they were doing, they're staying within budget, and not going over that. So that's definitely something, a way to make sure that the department heads are following the budgets that were allotted to them and approved by the county commissions.